Good morning and welcome to the DFS Army YouTube channel. I am Razzle11 and you can find me on X at Razzle11 Grinds. We are going to take a look at some pitching for Saturday, March 30th, day 3 of the MLB season. First Saturday slate where we have games throughout the day. Um, Obviously, a lot of pitchers making their first start of the year. In fact, every pitcher but one, I believe, on the slate of games is making their first start of the year. I should probably double check on who the Cubs starter is. Um, but Sasaki is expected to start for the Dodgers, and we know that he made a start in Japan. Imanaga for the Cubs. So every pitcher today but two. But we're mostly going to look here at the main day slate, guys. If I do have a little time left, I will try to look at some of the numbers for the evening slate pitchers as well. But similar to my Friday video, since we don't have a lot of data to work with about some of these pitchers, other than like spring training numbers, and a lot of that can be skewed based on what they're working on that particular day, we're going to utilize the DK Sportsbook and look at some of the prop lines and stuff for each pitcher to help us pinpoint some guys that we want to dig in more. That can lead to finding somebody, like a Jeffrey Springs on Friday's slate. So, with that being said, let's get started and take a look at some of these matchups. At the top, you get Fried versus Nestor Cortez. Cortez taking on his former team. Max Fried making his debut with the Yankees after signing that massive contract. A minus 155 favorite, pretty strong favorite. Just a few guys are larger favorites than that. Game total 8.5, juice slightly on the under. Obviously, the ballpark offensive things can happen, but I do like Fried's upside, even against a little more difficult offense in the Brewers. Fried, I don't believe has faced the Brewers, or didn't last year. I don't believe. We'll kind of have to dig into it for the slate itself. But as far as his pitcher props and props in this game, Fried's K prop of 5.5, juice pretty strongly on the under. But as we see, 5.5 is one of the stronger K props on the slate. So we don't have a ton of K upside. We have Littell, we have Lodolo, Soriano, and Fried. So even though it's just 5.5 and juices on the under, it's still one of the highest K props on the slate. And obviously, Ks are something that we look for. One thing that I'm incorporating a lot more this year, because wins are difficult to come by for starting pitching, we want to look at some of these SP to win props here. Fried sitting at plus 170. We see a couple better odds, four guys with better odds on this particular slate. So that is obviously something that we want to take into account. And the biggest one is trying to pinpoint how deep in a game a pitcher is going to go right now. And since I'm filming this at 1:45 in the morning, not all props are going to be up yet. But Fried is somebody that I'm definitely interested in at this point. Going down here, two guys that I'm definitely interested in: White Sox, Angels, Soriano, and Cannon. Cannon had a couple strong starts against the Angels last year, and those weren't even his best two starts. Soriano, a solid guy last year as well, a strong minus 166 favorite. And the reason I like Cannon some is the Angels are running out a couple of guys that were on last year's White Sox team that couldn't score any runs, or I guess Anderson was technically on the White Sox 2 years ago, but still, that overall Angels lineup is kind of weak. Obviously, they do have some power at the top, and obviously still have Trout, but this game, super interesting from a pitching standpoint. Game total of 8. Like I mentioned, or I probably didn't mention that right away, but I think that's like tied for the second lowest total on the slate. The Minnesota game being the lowest, which certainly comes into play. Slide over to some props here for this game. 5.5 for Soriano, like I mentioned with Fried. Cannon, just 4.5 with juice on the under. That's not a super intriguing K prop. Soriano plus 145 to win. The second best starting pitcher to win odds on the slate. Something that we want to pay attention to. At least that's something that I want to pay attention to, since wins are so difficult to come by. Now, here we have the outs recorded. Soriano, juices on the under 15.5, which means they're really banking on him just going 5 innings only. Cannon, over 14.5, which tells me they're basically predicting that Cannon's going to go 5 innings as well. These could change quite a bit, throughout the morning. But obviously the first start, we do get such a huge bonus if we can locate the pitcher that does throw 6 innings right now. It's not the easiest to do because managers just don't come out with their stopping point, whether it be innings or pitch numbers. So it's kind of a guessing game. These two guys are both in play for me, Joe Ryan and Eric Fetty. I'm not as excited to play Eric Fetty, to be honest. So I may not get there, but he was dominant against the Twins last year in 3 starts. He made those starts with the White Sox. I think all 3 of them were with the White Sox before he was traded, but 23 Ks in 17 innings allowed just 2 runs against the Twins. But we have Joe Ryan, who's a strong spot, just a minus 122 favorite. Kind of surprising, but like I mentioned, the lowest game total on the slate. Look into it from a K number standpoint. Both have K props of 4.5. Joe Ryan's is stronger to the over, but I think both have upside, and that's pretty important for us. Joe Ryan plus 160, which is what tied for third, I believe, in terms of best odds to get the win. Fetty plus 310, which is obviously one of the lower numbers. So it doesn't look very good there. I wonder if they also don't know if Fetty's going to go 5 innings. We see both those pitchers aren't on the outs prop yet. So we're going to have to look for that because I wonder if they might think Fetty ends up going just 4 innings. So we'll have to dig into his spring numbers to see if there's something there. Kramer and Scherzer, not really interested in pitching in this series. We've seen both teams score some runs in different games, but both teams have scored runs. Pitcher that I'm definitely interested in, Jesus Luzardo. Now, Washington's not a huge K team, at least they weren't last year. And game total is 8.5, which is tied for the highest on the slate, but he is a minus 162 favorite. And as you can see, that is the third highest team favorite on the slate. So when we get into the pitcher props with Luzardo, his K prop 4.5 was strong juice on the over. So I wouldn't be shocked if that moves to a 5.5 K prop. His win odds plus 140, which I believe was number 1 on the slate, and it is. So the strongest win odds. Outs recorded. It doesn't have a prop yet for that. You can also look at these earned run props as well. I haven't mentioned it yet, but this can give you an idea too. Luzardo over 1.5 is a really high number, so he is going to allow some runs. He just tends to do that, but he has some big upside in his arm, and because of that, that's why you're going to see him at just 8,200 on DraftKings. He's not a 9K plus guy. So there is volatility to him, but things line up pretty well. So there is some upside in him on this slate. Kind of as we go here, I'm going to eliminate pitchers down here. I don't really have any interest in even Bailey Falter. I do have some interest here in the Cleveland Kansas City pitchers, but an 8.5 total, close game. Gavin Williams is just supposed to take a step forward, and Lugo was solid last year. Um, but a couple of pitchers that I really want to look at, before this video is over. Lodolo, super volatile guy, gets roughed up at home, but he has big time upside in his arm. Minus 125 favorite, not the greatest. Zach Littell, probably the one of the favorite guys to use on the slate as a minus 205 favorite. That Colorado lineup um, can do some damage, but overall it's fairly weak, especially away from Coors. Um, and a game total of 8, tied for the second lowest on the slate. So when we look into some pitcher props of a couple of these guys down here, um, we'll go to their strikeout numbers. Lodolo, 5.5. Juice slightly on the under, but it's close enough. Littell, 5.5, but juices on the under a little more, so Lodolo more K upside. Gavin Williams, 4.5. Lugo, 4.5. Not a great K matchup for either pitcher, but I could see one of these two pitchers getting enough done to be considered a strong play. Littell, a plus 160 to get the win, tied with Joe Ryan for the third best odds on this particular slate. Seth Lugo, plus ones of 75, which is just behind them and right behind Max Fried. So that number is really intriguing to me. I don't think they're that much of a favorite, but to see him, at plus 175, that kind of gets my interest a little bit. So then as we kind of scroll over and take a look at the outs lines, Mattel doesn't really have one yet. But Lugo, especially, 16.5 feels like, it's the highest one posted yet. And the juice for him is on the over slightly. So now we're looking at a guy that might be looking at 6 innings. That raises up his floor for us, and then obviously raises up the upside. Gavin Williams, 15.5. Strong juice on the under, so we're looking at a 5-inning guy. So he just has to be a little stronger from a K perspective in a shorter period. So we're just looking for these little differences that can help elevate a guy like Lugo over somebody like, Bailey Falter, even though I'm not really considering him. Looking at his prop at 14.5, maybe even over Jonathan Cannon, even though I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up using Cannon. Then we're looking at earned runs allowed. I think it's earned run. Yep. Lodolo props at 2.5. Juice is on the under, but still, that's a high number. Littell, 1.5. Juice is on the over. Pretty strongly on the over, so that's a little frustrating to see. We go down. Lugo and Williams are both 2.5, but their juice is on the under for both of them. So they do expect a pretty low-scoring game between these two pitchers. So if we get 5 innings from Williams, he allows 2 runs. 6 innings from Lugo, and he allows 2 runs. Those are kind of performances that can sneak in and be, top 5 on this slate, top 4. It's not a super strong pitching slate overall. There are going to be a couple guys that do score 20 plus. It's just how it happens. Our goal here is to try to figure out which are those guys and which are the ones that don't have the ability to get us 20 plus in this spot. So, but there you have it. There's the first look at pitching and how I use props to kind of dictate that. If I look real quick at some of these, later slate guys without going into full prop breakdown, Roki Sasaki, strong favorite. Pitching has been great in this Oakland-Seattle matchup, and again, we get a total of 7 between them. So we're going to want to look there. I've tend to avoid the pitching in the Atlanta-San Diego matchup so far, so I might pass on that, even though Schwellenbach's getting a ton of love this offseason. But so there's some names to pay attention to, Walker Buehler. But yeah, if you enjoy what I bring to you, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and get the alert anytime we drop videos here at DFS Army. If you want to join us, get access to our coaches, tools, sheets, Discord, etc., I'll put links in the description below. and best of luck.